There are people online right now saying they already know the truth about 3i Atlas. But the truth is, nobody knows what this thing really is. So before you sleep tonight, hit subscribe, because what we are about to talk about is real, and we are barely at the beginning of this mystery. So, let's start slowly. Imagine this. You're lying down somewhere quiet right now. Maybe a room, maybe a couch, maybe a dark space where the only thing you hear is your breathing. And above all of that, somewhere, far, far beyond your roof, beyond the clouds, beyond the atmosphere, an object from outside our solar system is quietly passing through. 3i Atlas. This thing did not form here. It didn't come from Mars. It didn't break off Jupiter. And it wasn't born near the Sunday 3i Atlas came in from deep interstellar space. From a place where our telescopes can't even see background stars clearly. It came from a region so old and so mysterious that the rules we think we know might not apply there. If you think about how small Earth is, it's crazy. Our sun is one star, just one tiny star, and that star sits at the edge of one galaxy. And now we have objects entering our solar system from far beyond that. The first one we saw was Oumuamua back in 2017, then Borisov in 2019, but 3i Atlas, this is not like those. This one is huge. This one came in slow enough that we can actually watch it, study it, trace its path, and feel something we have not felt before. Time. We have time with this one. Not much time, but more than we ever had with Oumuamua. Oumuamua came in fast and left even faster, almost like a skip, like something flicked it. But 3i Atlas. This one moves like something with a plan. Its path is strange, its brightness changes, its tail is weird, and it might be older than our entire solar system. Older than Earth. Older than the Sunday, maybe older than life itself. And as weird as all of that sounds, the strangest part is that even the people who normally rush to debunk everything are not fully dismissing it this time. So tonight, I want you to just listen, don't stress, don't chase answers. Let the story move slow, let your mind drift, let your imagination expand out into the darkness, because the universe is bigger than we act like it is. And there are secrets out there that do not care about what we believe. They exist whether we understand them or not. And 3i Atlas is one of them. There's something strange about how quiet this thing is. 3i Atlas is not loud in the way comets should be. Usually, when a comet gets closer to the sun, the heat makes ice turn to gas, dust gets blown away, and we see this crazy spray of material. We see a tail form. We see jets. We see chaos. But 3i Atlas didn't follow the rules. Astronomers expected bright flares. They expected powerful outgassing. They expected something messy. But instead, 3i Atlas acted calm, almost controlled. It didn't break apart. It didn't flare. It didn't release a huge plume of gas. It just glided through space like a silent blade. This is where people started whispering, because silence in space is sometimes scarier than noise. The weird part is the brightness of 3i Atlas does change. Not like normal comets, though. Instead of flickering like dust clouds, it pulses, slow, rhythmic, almost like breathing, almost like its light shifts based on angle, as if the surface might not be rough, as if it might be smooth, flat, or layered. When scientists compared this to Oumuamua, the similarities were uncomfortable. Oumuamua also flickered weirdly. Oumuamua also seemed flat. Oumuamua also accelerated in a way we couldn't explain. But Oumuamua was small, tiny compared to this. 3I Atlas is big enough to be a mountain. So here we are again, another visitor, but this time it's not passing too fast for us to study. This time it's slow enough that we can watch it bend around the Sunday. We can watch how the light changes. We can map every shift in angle. And still, it refuses to behave like a normal object. That's why some people are not fully convinced this is just a comet. A comet doesn't glide perfectly. A comet doesn't hold shape like a crafted object. A comet doesn't stay this stable. A comet reacts. 3I Atlas does not react. It moves like it knows exactly what it's doing. Like it's following a route. Like something planned this path long before humans ever existed. As you listen to this, just imagine how far this thing has already traveled. Imagine how many suns it passed. How many planets it ignored. How many civilizations might have existed and vanished while this object just kept moving. It's hard to wrap your head around, but tonight, just breathe, relax, and let your imagination take that leap. Because we might not be looking at a simple chunk of ice. We might be looking at history from another star, a message, a relic, or maybe even a visitor. Another detail that has quietly bothered researchers is how old this thing might be. 3I Atlas isn't new. This object could be older than Earth, older than our sun, older than the planets themselves. Some orbital models suggest it came from the thick disk of our galaxy, a region filled with ancient stars. Stars that formed when the Milky Way was still young and wild. Back then, before Earth existed, before the oceans existed, before the first bacteria existed, this object may have already been drifting. So while we measure time in hours and minutes, this thing measures time in billions of years. If it truly originated in the thick disk, that means it has survived supernova explosions, gravitational slingshots around collapsed stars, and possibly whole civilizations rising and disappearing. Think about how insane that is. Earth's entire human history, all of it is a blink to something like this. And here's where things get even more uncomfortable. For billions of years, this object didn't hit anything. It didn't get destroyed. It didn't fall into a star. It didn't break apart. It traveled clean, like something protected, like something shielded. Comets usually get shattered over and over by impacts and stress. That's why most of them are dirty, dusty, unstable. 3I Atlas is intact. Intact after a journey basically older than this solar system. Some researchers quietly suggested that if this object is solid metal, not ice, then it might not just casually be a comet. Because nature usually doesn't build smooth metal mountains. That's a result of engineering, not random rock. And again, nobody is saying this publicly in official statements, but in late-night private messaging between scientists, they've asked questions they're not supposed to ask. Questions like, how does it stay so stable? How did it survive this long without eroding? What if this wasn't built recently, but built billions of years ago, before humans, before Earth? When scientists talk like that, even cautiously, you know the data is weird. Because normally science avoids emotional language. But with this object, weird has become normal. And every night it gets closer. The questions get louder. Not just from experts, but from regular people like you and me. Staring at the sky, wondering what might be passing through our own neighborhood, and what it might have already seen before us. And when you lie back, maybe in bed, maybe on your couch, letting your eyes get heavy while listening, there's something strangely humbling about realizing how tiny we are in comparison to this thing. 3i Atlas is not rushing. It is not frantic. It is not chaotic. It's simply moving in a straight, unstoppable line like something that knows exactly where it's going. Imagine floating in deep space with no sound, no wind, just the quiet hum of the universe, and this giant object drifting past like a silent steel mountain. No exhaust, no engines, no flicker, no signal flare. Just motion, quiet motion. There's a strange comfort in that, because in space, silence is power. Objects that explode scream. Objects that rot flare up. Objects that panic burn. But objects that are stable objects, that are controlled, objects that are preserved, those move quietly. 3i Atlas moves like that. Slowly, deliberately, calm. And maybe that's the part of this whole story that gets to people the most. Because we humans, we panic easily. We worry about bills, messages, notifications, deadlines, arguments, embarrassment, everything. But this object doesn't panic. It doesn't accelerate out of control. It doesn't wobble. It doesn't flash. It just drifts like something that already knows the ending. Like something that isn't guessing, but following a plan. Imagine staring at it through a telescope, and you can't hear it, you can't feel it, but you sense that it holds history, billions of years worth. And here we are, for the first time in human existence, actually watching something that didn't come from here and didn't just get here recently, but has been traveling longer than humans have existed. Think about that. Every civilization that has ever existed, Egyptian, Roman, ancient China, Mayans, this object was already on its way here back then. When cavemen first used fire, this thing was already traveling. When dinosaurs walked the earth, this thing was already traveling. When the first star in our night sky lit up, this thing might have already been drifting. That is so big, so far beyond human scale that our minds almost collapse trying to imagine it. And this is why so many scientists, even the skeptical ones, admit something very important. We don't know what we're dealing with yet. We can measure its speed. We can calculate its angle. We can track its sunlight reflection. But we cannot explain its behavior. And that is rare. Science hates admitting we don't know. Science prefers equations, logic, predictions. 3i Atlas breaks those patterns. It breaks momentum rules. It breaks size expectations. It breaks assumptions. And that, ironically, is what makes this so exciting. We are not watching a normal visitor. We are watching something that challenges what we thought we knew. Maybe it is a comet. Maybe it is a natural ice fragment. Maybe. But the possibility that it might not be, even if it's only 1%, that tiny chance is enough to make every quiet moment of the night feel different. Because if even one interstellar object is artificial, then the universe is not empty. It means people or beings or builders or travelers existed long before we walked the earth, and maybe they still do. So now, as we continue watching it move, slowly, quietly, deeper into our solar system, we're not just studying rock, we are studying possibility. And possibility itself, when it floats through the cold blackness of space, is enough to make any human heart slow down, breathe deeper, and listen closer. Because the universe may be whispering to us, and for the first time in human history, we might be hearing it. And while all of this is happening, what makes this moment even heavier is the fact that this time we're not in the dark like we were with Oumuamua. That first one blindsided us. It came, it flashed through, and before we even wrapped our minds around what it was gone. People don't like remembering that part. We never got close-up imaging. We never got a zoomed frame. We never got a confirmed shape. It slipped past us like someone tapping you on the shoulder in a dark room. And when you turn around, there's nobody there. But this time, with 3i Atlas, we're watching early. We're prepared. We have eyes everywhere. We have Hubble. We have James Webb. We have ground arrays. We have multiple nations tracking it at once. For the first time ever, we're watching an interstellar visitor in real time while it's still on approach. And that changes everything. Because now, we're actually learning. We're seeing what interstellar objects do when sunlight hits them. We're watching how they respond to solar wind. We're seeing whether they crumble or remain stable. But there's something subtle forming here. Something most viewers won't realize unless they slow down and think. 3i Atlas is revealing more about us than it is about space. Because every new measurement, every image, every calculation doesn't just show what's happening out there, it shows how much we still don't understand. It's like holding a flashlight in a massive warehouse. The brighter the light gets, the more darkness you realize is still beyond it. Some scientists have started to quietly say things like, maybe the laws of physics are not wrong. Maybe they're incomplete. And if you say that sentence slowly, it feels almost dangerous. Because it means everything we've believed about orbits, about motion, about mass, about acceleration might need an upgrade. Humans have always carried this secret belief that we're almost at the finish line of understanding the universe. But 3i Atlas is like a polite reminder floating right past our porch light saying, no, you're not done yet. It's humbling. It's intimidating. And yet, it's inspiring. Because if the universe still holds mysteries this big, then there are discoveries out there so shocking, so mind-bending, so paradigm-breaking, that future humans might look back at us the same way we look back at cavemen. sitting around fires, looking up at the stars, and guessing. And maybe, just maybe, that's the point. We needed something that forces us to slow down, to stop scrolling for a moment, to actually stare upward, to think bigger than headlines, to think bigger than politics and daily arguments and temporary anxieties. Because a rock or vessel or object older than the solar system is about to glide right through our cosmic neighborhood. And it's not asking permission. It's not asking attention. It's just silently traveling, as if it already knows exactly where it belongs. And as it keeps drifting closer, the one question no one can shake off is this: why now? Why is every major space agency suddenly paying so much attention to interstellar objects? Why did NASA create entire research panels just for objects like this only after 2017? Why did multiple observatories upgrade their tracking protocols specifically for deep space intruders only after Oumuamua? It's almost like the first one woke something up. Before Oumuamua, we didn't even know interstellar objects were passing through regularly. We assumed these visitors were rare once-in-a-lifetime occurrences. Now, we've seen 3, back to back, within the same single human generation. That alone should make someone pause. Because if 3 showed up this quickly, how many passed through before humans even invented telescopes? How many drifted by before we learned how to measure the sky properly? And how many passed while we were distracted down here arguing over things that mean nothing beyond Earth? This is where the real mystery begins. We didn't detect Oumuamua until it was already here. We detected Borisov early, but it looked normal. Now, with 3I Atlas, we're staring at something that might be the first interstellar object we intercept before it reaches its closest point. This means we get to watch every stage of its journey. We get to see what happens when it gets near the Sunday. We get to see if it speeds up or slows down. We get to see whether the gases it releases match anything we've seen before. And this is why some astrophysicists are starting to whisper, not publicly, but to each other behind closed doors. What if these objects are not random? What if space isn't just chaos and accidents? What if these visitors are like messengers, tiny breadcrumbs, pieces of a much larger puzzle? Because here's something most people don't know. The probability of encountering even one interstellar object passing this close is extremely small. Encountering 3 in a row in this short of a time period mathematically, it's strange. Not impossible, but strange. Almost like something changed in our region of the galaxy. Almost like something triggered a wave of motion. And it makes you wonder, did our solar system just become a checkpoint? A crossroads for objects traveling between stars? Or worse, did something detect us? And the more you sit with that idea, the more uncomfortable it becomes. Because it forces a simple but terrifying possibility. Maybe we aren't the ones doing the observing anymore. Maybe we are the ones being observed. Think about it. For thousands of years, we looked up wondering if anything out there was watching us. Now suddenly, within just a few short years, objects from other star systems are flying through our neighborhood, not grazing the edges, but cutting right through the heart of our solar system. Like someone knows exactly where they're going. Like someone marked our coordinates a very long time ago. And here's the part most people don't realize. Interstellar objects don't just accidentally stumble into our inner system. Space is mostly empty. The distances between stars are unimaginable. To hit our star system with precision means something had the right direction, the right path, the right velocity. Now imagine something 20 kilometers wide, dark, cold, with material we don't understand. Imagine it gliding in like it already knew where the sun would be, not just today, but millions of years in advance. Because if 3I Atlas really came from the thick disk of the galaxy, then it didn't just arrive here last week. It's been traveling in darkness longer than our oceans existed. Every ancient civilization that ever lived had this thing silently moving toward our sun, and they never knew. The pyramids didn't exist when this thing began its voyage. Neanderthals didn't exist when this thing began its voyage. Humanity as a whole didn't exist when its journey began. And yet somehow, the moment it gets here, we finally have the instrumentation to detect it. That timing is eerie, almost poetic, almost like the universe waited until we had enough technology to notice, and now we can't look away. NASA can't. ESA can't. The James Webb Telescope can't. Private observatories can't. Everybody's watching it, and no one is breathing too loudly. Because this time, unlike Oumuamua, unlike Borisov, we're not watching something that passed us already. We're watching something that is still coming toward the inner system. Something big enough to rewrite textbooks. Something with behavior that does not match ordinary comets. And this is just the beginning of its approach. We don't even know what it will reveal when the sun heats it up. We don't know what's inside. We don't know what happens when those outer layers evaporate. We don't know what shape might emerge from underneath. All we know is this: we are standing at the edge of a moment in time, where the universe is about to show us something we've never seen before. And the most chilling part? None of this feels random. It feels like we're in the first whisper of a reveal. Like we're staring at a curtain that's barely beginning to move, and there's something huge behind it. Some people say this is just another rock. Some people say it's just another frozen chunk. Some people say space is full of weird material, and we just never noticed before. But if that were true, why is this one so different? From everything else we've ever measured, you can take every known comet we've studied, every possible shape, every possible density, every type of icy nucleus, and 3I Atlas still sits outside the curve. It's too big. It's too massive. It's too old. It's moving too cleanly, too smoothly, too perfectly to be just debris. And here's the part that keeps physicists awake at 3 in the morning. Almost all comets shed visible dust when they heat up. This one barely shows anything, almost like it has a shell, almost like it has shielding, almost like it was designed to protect whatever is inside. Imagine that for a second. Billions of years, moving in darkness, through radiation, through cosmic rays, through interstellar dust, and it still arrives at our doorstep looking intact. That's not normal, not even close. And I think that's where the fear comes from. Because if it is natural, then nature just taught us something horrifying. It means there are objects out there massive enough to look artificial. And if it's not natural, then that means something built it. And that possibility? We are not ready for that. Our species can't even agree on basic things on Earth. How would we handle the idea that we aren't the only intelligence? That someone else or something else may have sent a scout? Because sometimes things that look like disasters are actually tests. Sometimes the universe sends warnings long before it sends visitors. And maybe this one is the warning. Maybe 3I Atlas wasn't meant to collide. Maybe it was meant to observe. Maybe it was meant to see if we could detect it. Maybe it was meant to measure our response. Because think about it. Everything we've done since it arrived is being broadcast. Our telescopes, our radio measurements, our heat scans, our telescopes adjusting, our satellites tweaking their sensitivity. Everything we do becomes data. We think we're observing it, but maybe it's observing us. And it's been observing us for a very long time. If you zoom out mentally and try to see the pattern, it almost feels like Earth is the last one to realize how strange this moment really is. Because other places in our solar system, they've already had visitors. We already know this. Mars was hit by giant impacts that boiled oceans and changed its atmosphere into a dry graveyard. Europa has fractures across its ice that look like something pulled from underneath. Ganymede has magnetic cycles we still can't fully explain. Titan has liquid methane rivers, but somehow they remain balanced, like they're being regulated. And for some reason, every time we launch a probe to one of these places, we always find something that doesn't match our textbooks. 3I Atlas just adds another piece to a puzzle that's been silent for decades. Every interstellar object we've seen is stranger than the one before it. Oumuamua wasn't a normal rock. Borisov wasn't a normal comet. And 3I Atlas? It's not even pretending to be normal. But here is the detail almost no one notices. The timing. It's not random. Our instruments, our space telescopes, our detection sensitivity, they have dramatically increased in the last few decades. So what if these things weren't arriving randomly? What if they were arriving when we were finally capable of seeing them? Because it's useless to arrive somewhere if the civilization there can't detect you. A message isn't a message if no one is listening. So maybe this isn't an accident. Maybe now is when our species finally qualifies for contact. We always imagined aliens just landing on Earth like a sci-fi movie. But what if real extraterrestrial intelligence moves slower, more patient, more distant at first? Like how humans observe wildlife with long lenses from far away, so they don't disturb the ecosystem. What if 3I Atlas isn't here to speak? What if 3I Atlas is here to watch? And maybe we aren't the target audience at all. Maybe Earth is not the main subject. Maybe it's the solar system itself. Because if you want to measure a civilization, you don't listen to what they say. You watch what they build and how they react. And right now, our reaction is being recorded. Think about this for a moment. Every time humanity has discovered something new out there, from the planets to black holes to dark matter to interstellar objects, it always started the same way. We didn't understand what we were looking at. And 3I Atlas is just the latest chapter in that pattern. Scientists don't want to admit it out loud, but it's obvious. There are parts of the universe that do not care about our equations. And maybe that's where the truth is hiding. Because here's something most people never think about, and it quietly changes everything. Our solar system is not isolated. It's moving. The Sun is orbiting the center of the Milky Way at about 450,000 miles per hour. And every star system we pass near brings new unknowns, new debris, new interstellar objects, new possibilities. So when people ask, why now? Why this strange object in this time period? The answer might be simple. We just entered a cosmic neighborhood we have never been in before. That alone should change how we think about 3I Atlas. Because maybe this thing didn't come from far away on purpose. Maybe we drifted into its region. Maybe this was never a visitor. Maybe we are trespassing. And if that's true, then the most chilling detail is this. 3I Atlas might not be alone. It might be just the first one we happen to detect. There could be more objects with strange orbits and cold signatures drifting quietly out there, but we haven't noticed them yet because they're not reflecting sunlight. We only see what shines. We almost never see what hides. And the universe is full of things that were never meant to be obvious. So now imagine the sky again. Not the sky above your city, but the sky above the solar system itself. Picture the planets, all of them moving in silent paths like clock gears, Jupiter turning slowly in the distance with its swirling storms, Earth drifting in its narrow band of warmth, Saturn with its rings glowing like a frozen crown, and somewhere out there, far from our noise, far from our belief systems, far from anything familiar, 3I Atlas is just silently matching that clockwork. No engine blast, no heat signature, no chaotic wobble, just a perfect glide, like something designed to move through space as easily as birds move through air. And here is what almost no one realizes. Space is not empty. Even between worlds, it is full of tiny particles, tiny dust, solar wind, cosmic rays, magnetic fields, radiation trails, and almost every natural object shows tiny nudges from that environment. Asteroids drift, comets spin. Even planets feel solar pressure just a little. But 3I Atlas? It ignores all of it. It behaves like something that is not reacting to its surroundings, but something that is controlling its surroundings. As if it is not being pushed by space, but instead it is choosing its own path through space. A comet does not choose. A rock does not choose. A chunk of ice does not choose. But 3I Atlas moves like something that has no interest in being influenced. Something that is following a plan. And that realization is quietly shaking more scientists than any official report will ever admit. Because the moment something looks like it's following intention, that's the moment the conversation changes. That's the moment you stop asking, what is it made of? And you start asking, why is it doing this? And that question is the first step toward a much deeper mystery. Think of the timeline for a moment. Back in 2017, when Oumuamua flashed by, we didn't even see it until it was already leaving. We were basically watching the taillights of a car that had already passed us on the highway. We never got a close look. We never had a chance to prepare. It showed up. It behaved strangely. and before we could even form a theory, it was gone. Then came Borisov, a more familiar visitor, gas, dust, a tail, like a classic comet from another star. Normal behavior, predictable physics. It arrived. It passed. It left. End of story. But 3I Atlas? This one is different. This is the first one in human history that we get to watch in real time as it moves through our solar system. And that's exactly why this situation feels so unreal. Because every new reading, every new image, every new adjustment is happening while the object is still here. We're not studying a fossil of a dinosaur. We're watching the animal while it's walking. We're watching it breathing. We're watching it in motion. And that is a completely different type of mystery. There's something deeply haunting about that. It's like seeing footprints in the sand. But this time, you actually see something still making them. And people don't like to say this out loud. But 3I Atlas isn't just an object. It has become a mirror that reflects the fact that we still don't know the universe. We still don't know how much is out there. And maybe we still don't understand what kind of things travel between stars. Just because humans haven't built a world-crossing machine doesn't mean someone else didn't long before us. If you step back and think about it, the most uncomfortable part of this story isn't really the object itself. It's the timing. Because the universe is enormous. Our star is one tiny dot lost in a sea of trillions. And yet we just happen to develop advanced telescopes right before these kinds of visitors started showing up. That is strange. For 4.6 billion years, Earth has existed. For 200,000 years, humans have existed. For only about 70 years, we've even had space technology. And within that tiny, tiny slice of time, interstellar objects suddenly start passing through our neighborhood. Oumuamua in 2017. Borisov in 2019. 3I Atlas in 2025. 3 visitors in the span of less than a decade. So, we have to ask, is this coincidence? Or did we just start noticing because something changed? Because when you look at the data, something else stands out. Each one is more extreme than the last. Oumuamua, weird shape. Weird acceleration, no gas tail. Borisov, more normal, but still interstellar. 3I Atlas, bigger, heavier, older, and more mysterious than both. It's like the universe is slowly raising the volume, slowly bringing something into focus. Almost like these objects are not random. Almost like they are stairs. Each one a bigger step. Each one more dramatic. Each one pushing the limits of what we think is possible. And again, we're not talking about imagination. We're talking about measurements, numbers, recorded data. These are real observations. Not rumors, not ghost stories, not campfire talk. This is astronomy. This is physics. This is reality. And the deeper scientists look at 3I Atlas, the more they realize this isn't an object that fits comfortably into the natural category. It's a confrontation with the unknown. It is forcing humanity to look at the universe like a child again. Unsteady, confused, humbled, because maybe the universe isn't quiet. Maybe it's busy and full and active. Maybe interstellar space is not empty. Maybe it's a highway. Some people get uncomfortable when you suggest that space might be busy because we were raised with a certain picture. We were taught that the universe is mostly empty, vast, silent, cold. Planets are rare. Life is rare. Civilization is rare. That's the narrative we've held on to for decades. But these new objects, they don't match that picture. It forces us to rethink something deeper. Maybe we are the empty ones. Maybe the universe has been moving, trading, traveling, exchanging, long before Earth even cooled. Because think about this. If 3I Atlas is 7 billion years old, that means it existed before our sun existed. Before Earth existed, before the dinosaurs, before the oceans formed. It might have seen entire star systems rise and fall, entire civilizations come and go. It may carry scars or technology or material from events older than humanity itself. If that is true, then this thing is not just passing through the solar system. It is a message in motion, a fossil that still moves, a survivor of cosmic history. The idea that something could drift for billions of years and remain intact means one of two things. Either the universe is far more stable than we assumed, or this object is built with purpose. And here's the real uncomfortable part. Even if 3I Atlas turns out to be natural, we are still looking at something humanity has never seen at this scale before. We are literally watching a messenger from another star system glide through ours in real time. Something carrying information older than the Earth. Something that doesn't care about our expectations. It simply moves through reality, and we're lucky enough to be here when it arrived. And as it moves closer to the inner solar system, every telescope on Earth and in orbit is watching. Not because it is dangerous at this moment, but because we are finally realizing the universe is not waiting for permission to surprise us. It never has. It never will. Now let's talk about the moment everything changed. The moment when 3I Atlas was struck not once, not twice, but 3 separate times by bursts of energy from our own star. Because this is where even the calm scientists stopped pretending everything was normal. Solar activity is not unusual by itself. Coronal mass ejections happen. Solar flares erupt. The sun is violent, always has been. But what made this different was timing. 3 major bursts, all aimed almost perfectly along the path of 3I Atlas. Not months apart, not scattered across random solar events, but grouped together like a sequence, almost like the sun itself responded to this visitor. First burst a moderate coronal mass ejection. Second burst stronger. Third burst the strongest of all 3. And inside that timeline, 3I Atlas brightened. Not dramatically, not explosively, but noticeably. And here's the part that quietly shook researchers. With every burst of solar energy that collided with this object, the coma around it, the outer shell, expanded. It reacted, as if it absorbed something. And instead of being blown off course, instead of being slowed, instead of being pushed, it stayed straight, unbothered. Now imagine this in simple human terms. It's like a hurricane hits a cruise ship at full force. and the ship doesn't even shudder, not even a sway. No course correction needed, just silence. Objects, we know rocks, ice, dust, debris, they get pushed by solar radiation. They react, they drift, they bend to the sun's pressure. 3I Atlas did not. It took 3 direct hits, and nothing changed. Astronomers don't say this publicly often, but behind closed doors, this one detail scares them more than any meme or conspiracy online. Because in physics, reactions are the fingerprint of nature. When something doesn't react or reacts in an unfamiliar way, it might not be nature. It might be designed. It's not proof. It's not evidence. But it's an alarm bell. A quiet one, hidden in data sets and observatory logs, not in headlines. And the silence around this detail is almost louder than the object itself. So now we enter the uncomfortable questions scientists don't like to say out loud. What if those 3 solar bursts didn't just happen? What if they were timed? Because think about this. Space is full of randomness. Explosions on the sun aren't rare, but 3 major impacts right at the moment this object enters the inner solar system. That's like lightning striking the same tree trunk 3 times in the same thunderstorm while everything else around it stays untouched. Some researchers believe 3I Atlas may have interacted with the solar wind not as a passive rock, but as a system, as if it responded, as if it used the energy. Because after those hits, something happened that wasn't supposed to. The coma, the outer shell, didn't just brighten. It stabilized. Imagine blowing on a balloon. It shakes, it wiggles, it wobbles. But this object's glow became more even, more controlled. That is not what a dusty, icy rock does when it gets blasted by radiation. Dust blows off unevenly. Ice jets fire in random directions. Spinning increases. We've seen comets get ripped apart just from small solar encounters. 3I Atlas did not break. It became smoother, cleaner, almost like it tightened itself. And some observers think this object might not just be traveling, it might be charging, like a device absorbing ambient energy as fuel, like a ship preparing for its next move. And here's the strangest part. After the 3rd burst, the object slowed just slightly. Not enough to panic anyone officially, but just enough to make you wonder, is this object simply passing through? Or is it adjusting for something? Because slowing is not random. Slowing is preparation. Slowing means purpose. Like someone easing the brakes before turning into a driveway. In deep space, nothing slows for no reason. Not naturally. Not 3 times in a row. Not right after energy absorption. But here's where this gets even more uncomfortable. Because if 3I Atlas is slowing, then you have to ask the question nobody truly wants to face. Slowing down for what? Because an object from deep interstellar space does not casually apply the brakes in the inner solar system unless something ahead of it matters. And that brings us to the most disturbing part of this entire story. Its new adjusted path after those 3 solar impacts is not random. It aligns near the orbital plane where several major planets will cross the same line of sight. Mars, Jupiter, and then the outer region where the Trojans drift like old silent stones. places with resources, places with stability, places where you could set up without being noticed. Remember, our instruments only track objects when sunlight hits them. If it wanted to stay hidden, it's picking the right neighborhood to disappear into. And scientists, the honest ones, have quietly whispered something in private interviews. Maybe Earth was never the destination at all. Because if you were an interstellar traveler, Earth is loud. Earth is chaotic. Earth is defended. 8 billion unpredictable life forms. But Jupiter's moons, Ganymede, Europa, Callisto, all frozen worlds, with oceans underneath, oceans older than our entire species, oceans that have never been touched by sunlight, oceans that could hide anything. If you wanted privacy, if you wanted to operate undetected, if you wanted to harvest water for fuel, if you wanted to observe without triggering panic, you would go there, not here. Scientists know this, they just don't say it on television. 3I Atlas is slowing down, and slow is how you approach something you want to reach. And suddenly the 3 solar bursts, those 3 hits, don't look like accidents anymore. They look like power stations, like refueling stops, like staging, like preparation. And once you see that pattern, you can't unsee it. And there's another detail almost nobody talks about: the timing. 3I Atlas didn't enter the inner system during some quiet solar period. It arrived during a phase where the sun has been more active than expected. It came exactly when solar storms were building, almost like it waited for the solar environment to reach a certain condition before stepping in. Almost like it was timing its arrival to match our star's outbursts. Almost like it knew that these eruptions could be used. Because those 3 solar hits, every one of those eruptions contained more raw energy than humanity has produced since the beginning of recorded history. To us, there were violent explosions. To an intelligent machine or an advanced vessel, those bursts are power, freely available, massive, constant. That is the language of spacefaring engineering. Use the star itself as your charger. That's why the old scientists, the ones who were children when Voyager launched, are uncomfortable. They know space better than anyone. They know how difficult the distances are. They know how impossible long-distance travel is without enormous power. So ask yourself, what if a solar flare is not a threat to it, but a battery pack? What if we are watching in real time an object that is doing something so far beyond our physics textbooks that we can't even define it properly? We keep calling it a comet because we don't have a file folder in our brain labeled something smarter than us. Instead, we label it with something familiar. But the more data comes in, the less familiar this thing looks. It doesn't lose material like a normal comet. It doesn't outgas like a normal comet. It doesn't tumble like a normal comet. It doesn't react to sunlight like a normal comet. Scientists measure it, model it, rerun the numbers. And every time the math spits out the same uncomfortable message, this is wrong. This is not behaving like ice. This is not behaving like rock. This is not behaving like anything indigenous to our solar system. And the question now becomes, if 3I Atlas is not one of ours, then who exactly sent it? And here's the strange thing. Nobody wants to ask that question out loud, because the moment you ask it, you admit something terrifying. We might not be the main character in this universe. For thousands of years, humans looked up and believed everything up there was dead rock, cold gas, and empty silence. But 3I Atlas, it doesn't feel like silence. It feels intentional. It feels delivered. And it gets even weirder when you compare it to the other 2 interstellar visitors we've seen before. Oumuamua in 2017, Borisov in 2019. Those were already shocking, but they came and went almost before we even realized what they were. They didn't give us time to study them in detail. 3I Atlas is different. It's bigger. It's slower. It's sticking around long enough for us to point cameras at it. Long enough to collect data. Long enough to study it. It's like it wants to be seen. Like it wants to be observed. Think about that. If something wanted to remain hidden, the easiest place to hide is space. All it would have to do is stay cold, stay dark, stay quiet. But it's not doing that. It is glowing hotter than expected. It is accelerating slightly more than expected. It is interacting with the sun's radiation in a way that is not random. That means it might be manipulating energy, not just absorbing it, almost like the sun is not a danger, but a fuel source. And maybe that is why it waited so long to enter the inner system. Maybe it was waiting for our star to reach the exact activity level it needed. Maybe it was waiting for the right solar cycle window. And now that the sun is active, 3I Atlas steps forward, as if everything was perfectly timed. And that raises another chilling possibility. If something can plan travel across light years, if something can navigate between stars, then it is not here by accident. It is here with a mission. So the real question, the one that keeps scientists awake at 3 a.m. is this. Is this thing simply passing through? Or is this the first move of something bigger? And this is where the conversation gets uncomfortable. Because if this thing does have a purpose, that purpose isn't random. It's not chaotic. Objects, this ode, objects that travel for billions of years, don't waste time. They don't wander. They don't accidentally fall into star systems like ours. Everything about 3I Atlas seems like motion with intent. Its path isn't crashing into anything. It's not hitting Earth. It's not slamming into Venus or Mars. It's not being dragged around violently by gravity. It is threading through the solar system like a needle through fabric. Smooth, precise, clean, like it knows exactly where it's going. And think about this. If we humans had the ability to travel between stars, would we ever choose Earth first? Honestly, probably not. Earth is loud. Earth is defended. Earth is full of unpredictable creatures, us. 8 billion of us. If you were a civilization looking for a safe foothold, you wouldn't pick the noisy house with 8 billion strangers. You'd pick the quiet one, the cold one, the icy one. Because those are untouched. Those are unchallenged. That's why scientists keep glancing not toward Earth, but toward Jupiter. Because Jupiter is the perfect staging ground. Water, magnetic fields, low gravity moons, fuel potential, huge access to the outer planets. You don't march straight to the capital city. You first take the mountain above it, and suddenly, 3i Atlas isn't just a visitor anymore. It becomes something else. A scout, not to become famous, not to be announced, but to gather data quietly, to scan from a distance, to learn the layout, to map the resource chart. And the scariest part is this. Everything it has done so far matches what a scout would do. It didn't hide, but it also didn't say hello. It didn't attack, but it also didn't avoid anything. It simply entered the system and started observing, like a needle-eye camera sliding into a room, silently recording everything. And suddenly we realize we're not the ones watching 3i Atlas. 3i Atlas might be watching us. So now imagine the next layer of this. Because if 3i Atlas is observing, how does it observe? We assume observation means cameras. We assume it means sensors, metal, antennas. But what if observation isn't mechanical at all? Think of this. Stars radiate information. Planets radiate information. Even our internet, our radio, our satellites, they leak signals into space. We send information by accident every second. A civilization that is millions of years older doesn't need to listen the way we do. They could read entire worlds the way we read weather. They could decode atmospheres the way we decode fingerprints. And then a darker thought forms. Maybe they don't just collect data. Maybe they categorize. Because Earth is noisy, chaotic, full of conflict. Mars is quiet, stable, predictable. Europa, Ganymede, Callisto, resource-rich and empty. Maybe Earth is not the goal. Maybe Earth is just an index entry in their database. A reference point, like a label. Star system, Sol. Advanced species, present. Population, billions. Threat level, uncertain. That's it. Just a line in a folder. And if that's the case, humans become nothing more than background. Like ants outside a house someone just walked past. Not a target. Not an ally. Not even a concern. Just something that exists in the corner of the map. And this changes the conversation completely. Because for years, people have said, if aliens came, they would land on Earth. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if the truth is, highly advanced civilizations don't land on noisy planets? They land near resources first. They build structure first. They set up operations first. Then they worry about the noisy world nearby later. That means if 3i Atlas has any link to intelligence, Earth is not step 1. Earth is step 8. Earth is step 9. Earth is a future chapter in a plan we don't understand yet. And right now, we are not in the story as the main character. We're just observers, watching something ancient cross our sky, and hoping we're not looking at the start of phase 1. And the more you think about it, the more a strange pattern shows up across history. Humans always believed we were the center of the universe, the center of creation, the center of meaning. But space humbles that thought instantly, because when you zoom out, Earth becomes a pixel, a single blue dot surrounded by billions of stars. a tiny world drifting in a quiet ocean of darkness. And that's what makes 3I Atlas so unnerving. It didn't come from our neighborhood. It didn't come from a place we understand. It came from the outside, from the deep galactic sea, from places where stars are older than our entire species. So when scientists say, it's probably just a rock, that might be true. But people forget something important. Many of humanity's greatest shocks came from things that looked ordinary at first. Electricity looked like a spark. Radiation looked like dust. Viruses looked like tiny threads. And yet each one changed the world permanently. So ask yourself this. What if 3I Atlas belongs to the same pattern? Something that looks simple, but isn't. Something that appears harmless until later. Something that seems like just a comet, but carries mysteries that don't fit inside our current model of physics. And maybe that's why so many people can't ignore it, no matter how logical they try to be. There's a quiet instinct inside them saying, this object matters. Not because it's coming toward Earth, but because it challenges how small we are. Because even if it never comes near us, it forces us to look upward and realize the universe has visitors. Some come and go. Some leave no trace. Some move faster than anything we've ever built. But the fact remains, objects are entering our solar system from regions we barely understand. And each one reminds us, we are not alone here. We are just beginning to notice. And that feeling of not alone, that's what makes people uncomfortable. Because we don't control the sky, we can't lock the universe the way we lock our doors at night. We can't fence off space. We can't put a warning sign in front of the Sunday. We can't tell the cosmos, stop sending things here. That's not how this works. Space does not ask permission. Objects don't need visas. Trajectories don't need approval. 3I Atlas isn't waiting for us. It's simply following its path, carving a silent line through the black. And that is why scientists are quietly tense, not panicking, not screaming, just tense. Because we are witnessing something that we cannot influence. We can only observe. We can only wait. We can only watch the data come in, frame by frame, day by day. And in that waiting, there's a hidden pressure, like watching a storm, but not knowing if the cloud will turn toward you or away forever. That's why so much attention is on its core, its surface, its reflectivity, its lack of expected gas signatures, its strange brightness patterns. Some researchers admitted something subtle. Parts of 3I Atlas behave like stone, but other parts behave like engineered material. Not confirmed, not proven, just a hint, a whisper, a little red flag buried inside the numbers. And that whisper has become a question. Why does this object hold together so strongly under extreme solar radiation when something that size should crack? And if something is holding it together, what exactly is it? Metal? Ice? Carbon? Something we know? Or something we've never seen before? That question alone is enough to change how we sleep at night. Because if this is natural, then nature has building blocks we can't replicate yet. And if this is not natural, then someone somewhere built it. Either answer means we have more to learn than we ever expected. And then things shifted. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't explosive. It was subtle. A small increase in reflected light, barely measurable. Just a fractional change in brightness. But it was timed. Not random. Not chaotic. Timed. It lined up with a solar pulse. NASA compared the waveform and the data curves almost matched. That's the moment when everything in the room changed. Because this wasn't just an object drifting. This looked like response, like interaction, like 3I Atlas had reacted to the Sunday. And that even in science is a terrifying word, because reacting implies awareness. Awareness implies intention. Intention implies motive, and motive implies that something or someone is operating from behind the scenes. Sensors logged the spike, timestamp verified, and the moment those numbers locked in, everyone realized this wasn't just cosmic debris. This wasn't just some frozen relic from a dead system. This was potentially the first time in human history we've seen something alien use the sun as a power source. And that's when quiet speculation became whispered fear. Because if 3I Atlas isn't just passing through, if it's harvesting energy, charging, utilizing solar radiation like a machine, then the next step isn't just observation. The next step is purpose. And as 3I Atlas continued on its silent path, its vector pointed deeper and deeper toward the inner solar system. We didn't just become watchers. We became the experiment. And the question humanity has never been able to answer suddenly became unavoidable. What if we are not the apex species in this system? What if, right now, we're the ones being studied? Not by microbes, not by distant stars, but by something massive, something engineered, something that has already demonstrated control of physics we cannot reproduce. And as those numbers rolled in, every scientist, even the skeptical ones, felt that electric chill inside. If 3I Atlas is a craft, it didn't arrive here by accident. So now we wait. Not because we want to, but because we don't have a choice. 3I Atlas keeps moving. It keeps holding that impossible silence. It keeps ignoring every law we thought was unbreakable. Every telescope still pointed at it. Every model still trying to make sense of it. And the truth is, nobody knows what comes next. Not NASA, not ESA, not the physicists who built this field. We are in that rare moment where the universe shows its cards. And suddenly we realize how small we actually are. Maybe it's a comet. Maybe it's a relic. Maybe, yes, it's something built. But whatever it is the most important object we have ever seen. So take a breath and really let it sit. The universe is not quiet. It's speaking. And 3I Atlas might just be the first time it spoke directly to us. So if you want to follow this until the final moment, don't miss the next chapter. Hit subscribe right now and go watch the next video that is already waiting on your screen.